everybody is on. Shots, 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 shots. Everybody!
Oh my God.
Does this thing still work? How is everybody? So, Active Directory. Probably my least favorite and favorite topic when it comes to hacking. And we're going to attempt to do this on stream. So, a little bit of insight on what we're doing. We're going to work in the Throwback network on TryHackMe. It is an Active Directory lab that teaches the fundamentals and core concepts of attacking a Windows network. The network simulates a realistic corporate environment that has several attack vectors you would expect to find in today's organizations. The long and short of what that means, this is designed for pen testers, red teamers, whichever, to have a place to safely practice probably one of the most common environments that we will actually see. That face kills me every time, Chaos Girl. This is one of the most common things that we see as a pen tester, though. Probably a good 90+% of corporate environments are going to use Active Directory in some way, shape, or form. So when we go to hack a client network, we're probably going to run into something that looks like this network. We're going to have an external firewall. We're going to have some public-facing things within that network. We're going to have what's called a DC, or a domain controller. We may have a second set of DCs. So when we start to look at this, we're going to look at domain trusts, and we'll get into all of that slowly but surely. Within those domains, we're going to have other machines. In this case, we have a workstation. This probably is an NTP server. In the second set of domain, we are going to have a mail server, it looks like. Why we have a third DC, I don't know. I have not looked through this network, so this is as new to me as it is to you, except for I'm probably a little more used to hacking these things. TryHackMe was nice enough to give us a little story. We're going to look at the story a little bit. We're not going to read every last word because that's just going to take too long. We already read this part. The lab is going to use a structured handheld approach, which I like because when we're trying to keep this beginner friendly, we don't want to skip easy things that I would consider easy that a beginner may not. The use of Windows to manage authentication and user identities, that is the purpose of Active Directory. They mention it's crucial to understand how this works and the network's common weaknesses. 100%. As an attacker, when I see Active Directory things, that is a great find. It lets me know exactly where I need to start. In this lab, we're going to look at phishing and OSINT, offensive PowerShell. PowerShell is a scripting language that was designed by Microsoft. We're going to talk about the Active Directory basics, Kerberos abuse. We'll get more into Kerberos when we get to that section. Common malicious macros. That'll be a fun one. Active Directory enumeration and exploitation, attacking mail servers, firewall pivoting, C2 frameworks, and abusing cross-domain trusts, which is when we're going to, once we get control here, we'll be able to pivot into a network over here. The basic setup, I've already done all of this, so give you an idea of what I did. I downloaded the configuration file. We connected to the network. That allows us to get started. If you are following along, make sure you do that part. So now getting into the actual concepts that we're going to talk about. This goes back into the story a little bit. When we talk about black box and white box, think of black box as you're truly looking at the network from an attacker standpoint. Attackers, unless they're insider threats, are not going to know anything about the network when they start. They're going to look at your network and say, okay, I don't like this particular company and I want to cause some havoc for them. They're going to start discovering what they can about the network. From there, they're going to move into enumerating. We'll just read what they have to say. They don't describe black box at all. Yeah, so black box is just, you're looking at it, you have no idea, you've never been in this network, you've never seen it. You're going to, most of the time, you're going to attack it from an external standpoint. So what can I see publicly? The white box approach, in what they're talking about, is a little bit different. They're talking about, we're actually going to use the white box approach that they're talking about, which is go through the steps, let them hold our hands, walk through this network. In real world, white box means I've been given some information about the network. I may have been given access to code repos. I may have been given access to the network, which we would call an assumed breach. I'm going to have people helping me through. So if I get stuck on an API that I'm testing, they're going to help me understand what I'm testing, what I'm seeing. Then we have a gray box, which is a mixed approach. So they give us minimal information, but we're not going to start with all I know is the company name. A lot less OSINT. I personally, for me, black box testing is more fun, and I think it gives a better overall look at what an attacker could do to your network. White box, I think, is great if you're new to having your systems pen tested, just because you have your pen testers covering more things. When we move into black box, there's a lot of stuff that a pen tester could make. That was loud. Oh, look at that. Phoenix trying to kill me. Was not expecting. Let's turn that down just a little bit.
I used to be an adventurer like you, and I took an arrow in the
Yeah, we're gonna turn that down. No, don't be sorry. That's I was just so Dahlia. No. That's not what we're gonna do. But yeah, so white box. Also, Phoenix, welcome and thank you so much for resubbing. And yes, time does fly when you are with friends. And thank you for the bits, Dahlia, even though you don't have to do that. So let's move to a kill chain. Kill, how are you? Oh my goodness. 1 second. Welcome in, Kill. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, so in this kill chain, they're going to talk to us about how it applies to this room. We have multiple attack. Secret summoning words, that's right. uh, so distracted. Should have taken ADD medicine. They are going to suggest that we start from the top and work our way down, which is what we're going to do. You'll notice we have an overview and a background section. Task 1, Chapter 1 intro. We've already gone through Task 2. We're on Task 3. We'll talk about the flag submission. Flags, when we're doing CTFs, are, in real world, we would call it success criteria. That may be, as a red teamer, they give me a specific machine. I agree, Kill. Poor Gray Box. Nobody ever talks about Gray Box, which is probably the most common testing that we do as pen testers. As red teamers, we stick to black box a lot more. White box, again, I'm not a big fan of white box testing unless the organization is very new, because then I can really get into their code, really kind of look and really help them get secure. And then from there, we can start with the gray box approach. Or if they're ready for red teaming after the first couple of pen tests, then we'll actually do a red team. In a second, we'll discuss the difference between pen testing and red teaming too. Because the terms are used interchangeably and they shouldn't be. Once we go through the control panel, we're not going to read this entire section about Active Directory. I already started to look at it and it's extremely long and I don't want you all falling asleep. Let's get offensive, blah, 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 blah. The real fun's going to start once we hit path 1. That's when we'll actually start hacking things. We'll look at phishing. We may get to this part. We will see. If we do, this is a really fun topic. If we don't, that'll be the next stream. Over the next 30 days, we are going to complete this entire network. And then eventually we'll go through transporter paths, which is proxies and threading. We'll talk a little bit about that. Then the main path, lateral movement. So once we're in the network, how do we move from host to host? So for our flag submission panel, as we gain access to various parts of the machine, it's going to present us with flags. We'll submit them here, mainly because, I want the certificate. Any CTF that you ever do is going to have something like this. In real life, if we're pen testing, you're not going to have flags. If we're red teaming, we'll probably have some sort of success criteria, whether that just be proving that we had persistence or, again, they may give us a specific machine with a specific file that we have to exfiltrate. If we do that, we have successfully maintained persistence in their system and gotten through what we had to get through. So let's go back to basics. Active Directory is a directory service for Windows domain networks used by many of today's. I would say many is probably an understatement. I would say a majority are using Active Directory. So what is it? What does it do for us? It's a collection of machines and servers connected inside of domains that are a collective part of a bigger forest of domains. Think of it this way. It's a way for systems to connect and to provide authentication between systems, to provide quick and easy control of permissions. If you work in IT, you have dealt with Active Directory. It is almost guaranteed. The main parts of it are domain controllers. Then we have forests, trees, and domains, users and groups, trust, policies, and domain services. These all come together to make an Active Directory. The domain controller is going to be a Windows server, whether that be a physical on-prem server or more recently we've started using Azure AD services. Hey John, get some sleep, man. I know you had a really rough night. Just know we love you and thank you for the lurk. And tell little man to get some sleep and feel better. Well, all the positive vibes to you, John. Seriously, I really hope you get some sleep because I know you need it, man. And as a dad, I get it. It's hard. Sleep regressions are super hard. But everybody give John a hug and send all the positive vibes, prayers, whatever you choose to do to help him get some sleep for Jonah and himself and Mrs. Papa Jada. So one second. I forget that I do things like this. So let's talk domain controllers. They are the center of Active Directory. They control the rest of the domain. It holds the Active Directory data store, handles authentication and authorization services. So when you log into your computer at work and you have to type your fancy little name and your fancy little password, 90+% of the time you're signing into an Active Directory of some sort. They replicate update from other domain controllers in the forest. So as we update one system, as we create new group policy objects, which we'll talk about a little bit later down in this section, that gets passed along. All the primary domain controller is going to, I'm sorry, Kill, I know, server 2000. I had a client this week that still had a server 2000 system active. That was fun. Or it's only 23 years old. It'll be fine. This is fine. The other aspect is this gives the domain admin a central place to manage domain resources, whether that be password policies, group policies, such as, this computer, when we start a new computer in our network, it has to have these tools. This can all be done one central location. This gets passed through the forest and onto affected users. The data store holds databases. We're not going to play with data stores too much. It does have password hashes, so when we are pen testing, if we can get into the data store and get those hashes, we are happy. We are very happy. Anytime I get password hashes, I am happy. It is only accessible by the domain controller. So we have to get control of the domain controller before we can start really getting to this data store and this particular file or database that we really want. So what does a forest look like? I will never understand why Microsoft felt they had to use forest, but we don't talk about Microsoft because Microsoft. We have a hierarchy of domains and Active Directory domain services. We have the domain. So if you work for Jim Bob's Mechanics and they have a domain service, it may be something like jimbobmechanics.local or jimbobmechanics.something else. Organizational units are containers for groups, computers, users, printers, and other organizational units. So if you have, an HR organization and you have an IT organization, you're probably going to have two different organizational units set up in Active Directory so that HR users may not need all the permissions that IT users need. And we want to make permissions easy and similar between groups, right? So if all of my HR people need access to a particular piece of software, but my IT users don't need that because very true. Fortunately, hashing did make the hack much more difficult, but people still suck at passwords. So as long as we have people involved, it's still possible. When we get into curb roasting and pass the hash, it'll be really fun to watch how we don't even have to necessarily crack them anymore. Thanks, Windows, for being helpful. But yeah, if HR needs access to something like salary information, I don't want my IT people to have access to that software. We should not share salaries unless, if I wanted to tell Kill my salary, that should be perfectly fine. But Kill shouldn't be able to just go in and find my salary because I may not want him to know that. Using the organizational units and group policy, we can make that happen. We can go as far as saying hashtag consent. That's right. With the group policy, I can say, IT users may need to have access to the back end of this software, but they don't need to be able to log in. They need to do what they need to do. When we talk about trust, that's kind of what we were just talking about, allowing different resources in other domains. So if IT needs access to the corporate domain, HR doesn't, I can set up this trust to say this user has access to this domain and it is a trust. We're going to turn the headset back on because there's no music playing. We're going to put some music on. Not quite as loud though. Objects are users, groups, printers, computers, and shares. Not too much more to that. Domain services, so we may have a DNS server, link local, multicast. We're not going to go into that whole one. IPv6, only if you're not in America, because America's still so far behind on IPv6, it's not even funny. And the domain schema. Users are the core to Active Directory. Without users, why have it? different types. We're going to have domain admins. They have control of the entire domain. They're the only ones that should log into the domain controller. We use should. They like to use are the only ones with access. I disagree because I will find a way to get into that domain controller. Service accounts can be domain admins. They shouldn't be, but they can be. They're going to be used for service maintenance. And some of the services that are required, we're going to use them to access that. Local administrators are going to be, if Jim has a laptop and Jim needs to be able to do administrative tasks on that laptop, he's going to be a local administrator. That does not mean he's an administrator to the domain, although he could be. Then we have domain users, which are, that's me, that's Kill, that's Dolly. That's the people who are using the systems on the network. We are not going to go into domain policies, services. We are going to go into authentication. So the most important part of Active Directory, as well as the most vulnerable part of Active Directory, is the authentication protocol set in place. We are going to have two, which is NTLM and Kerberos. Kerberos is one of my favorites. NTLM is almost too easy sometimes. So how does Kerberos work? It is the default authentication service. It uses something called a ticket. We send these tickets along to resources, and as long as the ticket is found to be valid for that resource, the resource is accessible to the user. NTLM is a default Windows. It is terrible. They use the word encrypted. I would say that's stretching it. It is a challenge and response protocol. Basically, I send my password hash to a resource. The resource says, yep, that password's good. Go ahead and do your thing. That's a key concept. I don't necessarily have to know the password. I just have to know the hash sometimes. Active Directory domain services are the main access point. That's true. We're going to pause here. Any questions on what we've got so far? And look, I'm 5 points away from a badge. I don't know what that means, but I'm 5 points away from a badge. Let's get offensive. Yeah. Once we get to the hacking part, it's a little less class-like. I try not to make it too much like a class. Ew. jQuery. Yeah, for sure. But seriously, Kill, get some sleep. You don't do it enough. So, have a wonderful night and good sleeps to you, man. Before we get into offensive, we are going to take a short break because honestly, I think we need a break before we get into this. But yeah, we're going to take a short, be right back, and then we'll get into a little bit of offensive PowerShell. you're back. Sour Patch is back to sleep-ish. So, yeah, we're going to skip the PowerShell section. It's not necessary for what we're about to do. We will probably circle back to it somewhere in this area. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and actually start hacking something. Quick, what's going on? Our attack team has run initial reconnaissance on the target. They find there are 3 machines publicly facing, which is Throwback Prod, Throwback Firewall 01, and Throwback Mail. Our team has let us know that these assets are publicly accessible, and it's now our job to perform additional reconnaissance on the machines and find a way in. Also, this thing is amazing. This is the tumbler that I got from Dahlia, and if you haven't talked to her about the tumblers, highly recommend it. Super good quality, and the price was great, and I am madly in love with this one. On it, it says, I whisper, what the fuck, to myself like 20 times a day. I told Dahlia when she made this one that she obviously knew me better than I realized, because it was absolutely perfect. But yeah, if you haven't talked to her, please talk to her about them, because they're fantastic. They come with a nice metal straw, and they have a cappable top, which I'm just telling exactly how I feel about the tumbler, to be honest. I love it because I can actually let the kids drink out of it. With the cappable top, the 4-year-old knows how to close it. They both know how to drink out of it, and with the straw, it makes it even easier. So, seriously, talk to her about them, because they are really good quality, and if you have kids, the kids can't break them. And honestly, just the signs on them are super fucking cool, man. But yeah, I picked it up and I was like, maybe I'll mention where I got this from, because Dahlia is amazing and she won't admit it herself, so we're gonna make sure to admit it for her. So now we're going to hack some stuff. Actually, let's start here. So they want us to do a Nmap scan. I am not going to use the Nmap scan that they are suggesting, mainly because it's going to take a minute. Octomany, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And if we're going too fast or if we're going too slow, please let me know. I want this to be as beginner friendly as possible, though, so chances are we're going to err to the side of slow. But yeah. I am... So my official job title is Adversary Simulation Engineer, which is a really fancy term for red teamer. I was a pen tester prior to moving into full-time red teaming. Yeah, exactly. And I do the full gambit. I do adversary simulation. On occasion, I'll still do pen testing. I try not to do it because pen testing can get really boring. I didn't say that, but it does. I like testing. I like the long-term game more so than the 2-week engagement. Oh yeah, I love my job. I tell everybody, I get paid to break into stuff, whether that be computer systems. I do physical assessments as well, so um, I get paid to break into buildings on occasion. Um, it is a really fun career path. I do like to give a disclaimer. A lot of people think that it is all hacking and it is all breaking into buildings. It is not. 75% of my job is doing the technical stuff, the other 25% is reporting. Um, Reporting sucks, but it is necessary because without that report, there's no reason for our clients to pay us. Um, but yeah, if you have any questions about red teaming, it sounds like maybe you're thinking about going down that career path. Um, if you have any questions, feel free. A little bit of all, a little bit of all Nginx. I I am a full time red teamer. I only do Santa during Christmas time. But yeah, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. If I don't know the answer, we'll Google it together. That's everybody always asks what is your favorite tool for pen testing, hacking, red teaming, whatever you want to call it. OSCP. Um, so I have my OSCP. I thought it was a really good exam. Um, I've done it both the old school OSCP and when the new one came out because I wanted to be able to speak intelligently about it. I took the test again. I think the new style of exam is much better than the old. It is a little bit closer to realistic. Um, yes, the foreign languages that Alia loves so much. Um, PNPT is actually one that I am getting ready to take because I want to be able to speak intelligently about that certification. I will say anything that I have seen that the Cyber Mentor puts out has been fantastic. Huge supporter of Keith. He is amazing, and what he does for the community is just absolutely fantastic. So that being said, I think the OSCP is a little more recognizable right now. So if you're just getting into the field, probably would recommend OSCP if you can get somebody to pay for it. Don't pay for it yourself. Make a company pay for it. If you are paying for it yourself, I would recommend the PNPT because the the quality of education you're getting from his courses and the quality of the exam is going to prepare you a little bit better. I like that he doesn't just throw you in an environment and say hack this stuff. You know, he's doing the full gambit. He's starting you off with a kickoff call. He's starting you off, you know, here's a real environment. He's not doing the here's 24 hours to hack these things, get the points. Um, from there, he's moving into a debrief. So I feel like if you have to pay for something, number one, the certification is much more affordable. Number two, the the actual exam, how he has it set up, is more real world, in my opinion. Um, that being said, if a company is going to pay for it, I recommend OSCP just because it's a little more recognizable at this point. That will not always be true because as more people take this exam and review it and provide it to their HR departments, I think offensive security, and I hope nobody in this chat works for them, is going to have to do a lot to keep up with what that certification is really offering. Um, those are my personal thoughts. So I have heard of it. I haven't done anything with it yet. I think that's going to be another situation where the certification's so new that it's going to Oh no, no, please, please ask all the questions in the world. This is what I do. I want this stream to be focused on helping people who are just getting into the career path or who are maybe switching from. Eventually we'll do something for people who are trying to get out of pen testing and going into red teaming, because there is a difference. Oh, Octanani, thank you for the sub. You, I never know how to react to that. I really do appreciate every sub. And just thank you. That's the best I can do. Thank you so much. But yeah, back to the Hack the Box certification. I think probably sometime this year I'll take it. Just again, so I can speak intelligently to it. My biggest issue with the Hack the Box things is they're very CTF-y. And I'm hoping their certification doesn't reflect that, because when we do this in real life, we're not looking at it the same way that we look at a CTF. CTFs are designed for you to take a machine. There's a specific way in. There's a specific way to escalate your privileges, and then you're done. As pen testers, assuming that pen testing is the first route you go, our job isn't to stop once we find that way in. You know, if I find a Jenkins server that I can create a web shell off of, and then I find a set UID bit and escalate my privileges to root, my job doesn't stop there. That is a finding. That is something that I am going to put in my report. But my job doesn't stop there. I continue. I try to find other ways in. If I'm only testing one machine, I may find 50 different ways, and I'm going to report on those 50 different ways. Because our job is to make our clients more secure. We just get to have a lot of fun doing it. But at the end of the day, the reason that we get paid to do what we do is because they want to be more secure. They want somebody with an adversary mindset to come in and show them this is what it would look like. That gets even more true with red teaming. With the exception of my goal as a red teamer is not necessarily to find every finding. It is to find one way in. And then from there to maintain that foothold. Like I said, I probably will take that certification at some point this year, just so I can speak to it a little bit more, not from what my concerns are, but from what I've seen from it. But yeah, that's kind of where I would put it right now. It's a new certification. If it is doing something similar to what Keith is trying to do, I think it's great. If not, I would put it closer to the bottom of the list of certifications to get. Does that get you the information you wanted? Oh, for sure, for sure. And like I said, feel free as we go along. More questions, I will do my best to answer them. If not, I will literally open a new tab and we'll Google it together. People say study a bug in depth and then just go hack. I do bug bounties. I think it's great if you're wanting to make some money while you're learning. That being said, bug bounty hunting it's a little bit different than pen testing. Like you've heard people say, study a bug in depth and then just go hack. When you're testing this application, you're going to spend a lot of time on it. That is why I'm a firm believer that companies should use bug bounties, because you're getting researchers who are focused on trying to find that one bug that's going to get them that P1. Um, I would recommend, if you're just getting into the field, instead of focusing on bug bounty hunting to start off, do something like Try Hack Me. Do something like Hack the Box, like it sounds like you're doing. Um, Use the bug bounty as an intermediate step. So, getting a decent ranking on something like HackerOne is a great resume ad. But once you've gotten to that point of being in bug bounty hunting, you're either one, going to probably be in the field, or two, you're ready to move into the field. So if you're just learning, I feel like bug bounty hunting may get you focused on the wrong parts. It's really important to learn the basics so that you can provide your clients with the services they need. Look into things like what does a PCI pen test look like versus a standard pen test? What does SOC 2 require for a pen test? And make sure you understand those concepts first. Once you understand those concepts, moving into web application pen testing is a great next step for moving towards the bug bounty programs. And once you feel comfortable with the basics of that, then go ahead and move into bug bounty. That's just my recommendations, though. Whether it's worth your time, anything you're learning is worth your time. As hackers, that is probably the most important thing we have to keep in mind all the time. This is a job where if you are not a lifetime learner, you are not going to have as much progress in the field. I spend a lot of time outside of work and at work just reading articles, reading, what's going on in the world of hacking. But anything you're learning is worth your time. Yes. Uh, so I've been doing this professionally for about 7 years now, and every day I get that same feeling. I know absolutely nothing, and I love it. I did HVAC professionally before I moved into doing this, and that was one of the worst parts of that job. Was there came a point where I wasn't learning anything, and that's not me. I like to learn something new every day. Um, the biggest the biggest advice I can give you if you're just starting out is to take it in small steps. Don't burn yourself out. Um, and understand that the most important tool you have is the ability to research. Um, Nobody knows all of this, and if they say they do, they don't. They don't realize how much they don't know. Um, the people who think they know everything about hacking are the ones who either one aren't hackers. Exactly. And if that is your mindset, you will do well in this field. Um, I did HVAC for 15 years, and even as a service technician, it just got to a point where I was walking up to a unit and this is what's wrong. I didn't even have to pull out my tools half the time until it was time to actually fix it. I will say this career path, Nothing's the same. It is different every day, whether that's because you're dealing with a client that is fighting you on a finding, or you know, you're researching a new vulnerability, or you're researching an old vulnerability that isn't working the way you thought it was going to. It is something different every day. Um, and I know when we first started this conversation, I said pen testing gets boring. That's not a that's not a fair statement to make. Um, what got boring for me with pen testing was I was an internal pen tester for a company, so I was testing the same application every quarter. It was nothing new. Um, Moving into client facing pen testing, so I'm hacking this company this particular time, I'm hacking this company another time. Pen testing got exciting again, and then I fell into a red teaming role. They needed somebody who understood command and conquer. They or command communicate. C2. They needed somebody who understood um, the different aspects of how do I look at an adversary's TTPs and turn it into a full engagement. Um, I probably would have gotten another 10, 15 years out of pen testing for clients because it was so different every day. Internal pen testing, you can only test the application so many times before you just feel like you're getting back to that mundane, I've done this already. Um, so something to think about when you get into the career is watch where you're pen testing for. Internal pen testing gigs are great to start out, but eventually you'll want to move into something in consultancy doing testing for clients. Um, so again, this network wants us to use this nmap command. I'm not going to use it. I don't see a reason to scan an entire /24 when I know that there's only 3 publicly facing machines. We're going to do something a little bit more modified. And there's another thing that I don't like that they're doing here. The min rate's great. The verbose, I don't personally like to clog my terminal with all of that. Service version, scan and connect, all the ports. That's fine. When I do a scan, one thing I see a lot of junior pen testers do is they run a scan like what we just saw, and they have to rerun it, and then they have to rerun it, and then they have to rerun it because they're just using the scan a single time. I'm going to smoke on stream. I don't normally do this, but we just had a long be right back because of little bit, and I don't want to go back into a be right back stream. So one of the things that I personally would do, if I know that there's only these 3 hosts, I would add them to a file, which I have done. So we're gonna I name it host.txt just because it's easy to remember. Let's go ahead and look at what's in there. Make sure we haven't changed IPs or anything. Note taking. My first bit of advice is more notes are better notes. Take notes on everything. I don't know that on this machine I have anything. So I use Cherry Tree or Joplin. Depends on what I am For learning, I use Joplin because I can sync it across multiple devices very easily. It just syncs to a Dropbox, and I put it on a new machine when I get one, and there it is. Obsidian is great. The only reason I don't use it is I started off with Joplin and Cherry Tree, and I don't try to fix stuff that's not broke. Those two programs do everything I need them to do. So if you're using Obsidian, continue using it. Kind of the way that I do things, and most of your pen testing focused note taking apps like Cherry Tree, Joplin, Obsidian are going to have a similar concept to what we're seeing here, which is, a node name. So an example of how I would do this is I would do throwback. Hi, Nixie. How are you? Welcome in, and thank you for the sub. 3 months. That is insane. You have been here since the beginning. Tired.
I'm a piranha.
Your sound alert makes me laugh every time. I mean, tired. I feel that. For our other conversations, I'm just glad to. I'm glad to hear that there's plans, and I'm glad to hear that you found a team that is going to help take care of you. I'm not going to put your business out, but hopefully soon you won't feel as tired. So yeah, when I do notes, I would normally start with this. So this would be engagement level. I would add a subnode, and we'll do 10.200.34.219, and I would just continue creating down. I noticed you asked about specifically for learning. So I do a similar process. So let's say I was taking a course called THMs Hacking. So I would do THMs Hacking. Always hacking the matrix. Always. Welcome in, Subpai. How are you doing today? Well, I assume today. For me, it's actually tonight. But and then what I would do is for each section, because courses are always going to have their little sections. Chapter 1. Is a boot. Yeah, my funky command lines. I use AwesomeZH for anybody who is interested to know why my terminal looks the way it does. And I think we have some house guests arriving. We do. Hello, house guests. But yeah, and basically, Octo, this is... I would say social engineering, maybe not greater than hacking, but equally as important. As a red teamer, social engineering is 9 times out of 10 going to be my first way in. Why hack a machine if I can hack a person? People are easier. But yeah, phishing, whatever it is, social engineering super important when I do physical engagements. Thank you. Oh, you come bearing sweets and food? You guys are awesome. But yeah, I would say social engineering is a tool for hacking. Octo, does this answer kind of what you were asking about notes? Well, thank you, Octo. I appreciate that. I'm just trying to provide what knowledge I can. Where am I from? I am from California. I currently live in the Georgia area. Yes.
Where even is the chat?
Where is my chat? On this monitor.
That's it.
Yeah. My house guests always have interesting questions about my setup because I use 4 different monitors. So that it's always like, where are you even looking? Oh. But yeah, I'm originally from California. I was born in Anaheim, right across the street from Disneyland. Then I moved to San Diego. Matrix Java console. Oh, on Discord? Is it on Discord? It is on Discord. Beautiful. Nixie, your battle station is amazing. I love it. But yeah. And this is kind of how I would take notes. Personally, Octo. The biggest advice I would give about note taking, though, is you've got to find what works for you. Yes.
I have another question.
Okay.
Are you able to print keycaps with nothing on them? So I can design like little cute custom keycaps.
Keycaps?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have to get some measurements. Just tell me, just give me a
basic generic size.
Okay, that's cool. But do you know the measurements for a basic generic keycap?
No, but I figured your software might have a pre-done one.
No.
Oh.
No, I'll have to find out. We are being asked about 3D printing. If for people new, there is quite often that I will do 3D printing streams. The house guests are asking if I can print 3D print keycaps for them. But yes, I can.
Thanks. I'm gonna put like Pikachu.
What color?
Black.
Just pure black?
Yeah.
And you want to put Pikachu on them?
Well, I'm gonna put a lot of stuff on, different stuff on it. You know, like the ones with the cute little charms on, like the one that I have?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I mean, if you want stuff like that printed, then you definitely have to tell me what you want.
This. Like, I need the base printed so that I can put...
Alright. Well, let me
Where?
get back to stream. But yeah, biggest thing with notes is find what works for you. The biggest thing is to take decent notes. And there's no such thing as too much when it comes to notes. It is always better to have an abundance of notes than it is to have not enough notes. And sorry about the distractions. I definitely have ADD and I have trouble context switching because of that. So it takes me a few minutes once I get back to where we're at. So we're going to end map. For me, I would do this. So we're going to use the -il, which is going to specify a host file. We can use our host.txt. what that does is allow us to scan multiple hosts without typing them all out. We can do a -p-, which specifies to scan all ports. I like to use -a, which runs a bunch of default scripts, NSE scripts. And the big thing that I don't ever see people... Thank you for the gifted sub, Octo. Don't ever feel like you have to do that. I appreciate it, but don't feel like it's an obligation, and it's very kind. I really do appreciate it. Well, thank you. I'm just, and yes, yeah, it's for Chip. When Chip's around, Chip is fun. He likes to give me hell, and it's fun. We troll each other in various streams that we find each other in. But he's a really good dude. Couldn't have gone to a better person. So we're going to use the -on. This is going to save our script output to a file. And specifically, it's going to save it as an nmap output. And we would name the file, full port scan. I like to name it .nmap. It's just a habit. You don't have to name it anything. We'll go ahead and run this. Normally I would run these nmap scans before stream, but since we have some new people in, might as well run it. I don't like to use the verbose options just because, again, I don't like to clog my terminal up any more than I have to. When you're first starting out, it's a good idea to use it just because it'll give you some more information about what nmap is actually doing in the background. And if anybody is new to using nmap, what I did to get this secondary part to pop up, I just hit a key. Particularly, I hit enter just because it feels more natural. And it just kind of gives you an idea of where you're at. So, like, we're already at 34%, so this shouldn't take too terribly long. We're only scanning 3 hosts. If you're scanning something much larger, sometimes it's really good to step over to mass scan just to get an idea of what hosts are up, what ports may be there. Mass scan's a little bit faster. There are some things you want to take into account when you're doing that, though. If you're scanning an older network with older gear, mass scan can... I do. If this was a larger network, I probably would use the min rate just because, again, like you said, I want it to go quick. I definitely, on initial, I never scan all the ports at once. Normally the top 1,000 ports is enough to get an idea of kind of what's going on. That being said, after I get those results, I'll probably run a full port scan in the background. If it's too large of a network, I'm just going to use mass scan. If it is a PCI segment test, I am 100% using mass scan because waiting for UDP scans to finish with nmap in a large environment is just way more time than I have to spend watching a scan do its thing. Got about 15 seconds. But yeah, I definitely use it. I wouldn't use it on something this small. If I only have 3 hosts, it's going to take less than 10 minutes. I might as well just let it run as it wants to run the default. Now, I will use max rate more so than I do min rate. And the reason for that is if I'm trying to be stealthy, I don't want to send a bunch of packets really fast. That's a quick way to get caught. In red teaming, our job is not to get caught. In pen testing, we're not quite as worried about it. We don't mind if somebody sees us doing the stuff we're doing. In red team, my goal is stealth. In this scenario, if I was using the max rate in this scenario, I would probably start with 1,000. I want low and slow. If I start feeling like I'm getting caught, then I would probably lower it even more than that. If it was a larger network, that would adjust. But if I was only focusing on a single host, which a lot of the time I will, if I start seeing responses change from firewalls, so if an IDS or an IPS is starting to notice that I'm scanning, you'll see response changes. You'll see weird filtering happening. I'll tell you what, within the next 2 weeks, I will set up a red team lab and I will set up actual either IPS or at minimum IDS, and I'll show you. I'll let you see what it looks like when I start to get caught. How's that sound? Instead of describing it, I'd rather show. I have 2 very large servers here. I can set up a decent enough lab, and we'll go into some red teaming. This is what it looks like. This is how I know when somebody's catching on to what I'm doing. Cool. Yeah, we'll do it. If you join the Discord, I will add in a schedule of when I think I can get that done. Don't feel obligated to join the Discord, but yeah, you're more than welcome. And of course, right now I have Discord in streamer mode, but if you do join, I'll make sure to say hi and go from there. So our scanner gave us back some information. Surprisingly, it only came back with... So this is actually something that I would start to look for I might be getting caught. Returning a bunch of filtered reports or ports. Not getting information back from hosts that I expect information back from would be kind of a telltale sign. Actually, I'm kind of surprised. I'm interested to know why we didn't get responses back. Because, yeah, the only thing we actually got a response back from is that 219? Yeah, so this is the only machine that we actually got a response back from. We should have been getting something back from these. They may not be responding to ping requests, which there's an easy way to tell. Let's do 138 because that's kind of the machine that I want to mess with. So they are responding. And this is the name of the game. If we start not getting responses back that we want, we just kind of continue going. Yeah, this time it's reading this up. Some things that we would start to look for, we've discovered a domain. We've got our domain tree version information. All is super important. Interesting ports that I'm already seeing. We've got 135, 139, 445. So we definitely know that we've got some kind of Active Directory services running. Chances are we've got some Kerberos. Love to see this. This is letting us know that there is a web server. Gives us our HTTP title. Lets us know that we have a potentially risky method. Yeah, I probably wouldn't get too excited about that. We've got OpenSSH. So we've got some different things. Publicly facing RDP. I'm going to tell you right now, if I was doing a pen test on this environment and I was actually externally facing and I saw this, yeah, it says potentially. But yeah, if I saw RDP exposed to the world, I'm going to mention that on a report. This should not be a thing unless it actually has to be. Anytime we have RDP exposed, we are putting that server at risk. We've got some more web services going on here. We've got some RPC. All very interesting things. We got SMB2, so there's probably going to be some SMB enumeration that we can do. So on this server, now I only did the top 1,000 because I wanted to see what was going on. We see that DNS is open. We've got OpenSSH 7.5 protocol 2. So that's something we would check and see if there's any vulnerabilities known to this version. We see something open on 443. This is definitely something that I would start to look into. We're just going to copy this link address. And we'll go ahead and go to it. We like to see this. How are you? Ray, how are you doing today? Welcome in. So we've got a pfSense server. pfSense firewall. One of the very first things I would do is never hurts to try. You would hope and you would think that people would get rid of default as soon as possible. They don't. People often forget about that. It's always worth trying. So we could try admin with password pfSense. Click sign in. And this is why we check it. This is already a problem, right? This is a finding. So we would absolutely bring this up. I now have so much information that isn't even funny. I will tell you now, this week alone, I got into 3 systems because of default passwords. Always check default. It's it doesn't hurt. What's the worst that'll happen? You don't get in? Oh well. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Especially if you're pen testing in a dev environment, people just they think, hey, it's a dev environment. Who cares? You should. You should absolutely care. Because if I can get into your network, now that I have access, I I now have a pivot point. Um, I have a machine that I can proxy chain through. I have a machine that I can pivot into your network. Um, that's not good. Yeah, I'll always check default creds. It never hurts. So we've got web access. Um, knowing what we know now, I would definitely do this. And the reason that I would start to do this is I want to be able to set up pivots. And we'll click yes. Okay, so they did do at least one good thing. They are requiring us to use a public key. So that's good. That being said, there's probably some things we can do around it in here. We have system logs. Looking at logs is always a good idea. 10.50. That's interesting. It's our IP. Ah, look at that. PF got us trying to SSH in. We have access to a packet capture. We can start enumerating DHCP. There's probably a command prompt somewhere. I don't mess with pfSense too much. Yeah, so at this point I could I don't know if we'll get this lucky. Yeah, so I mean, we could try doing shadow. Depends on what permissions this user is using. So let's see if we can do something fun. We're just going to copy this, and we're going to see if we can make it where we don't have to work in this web UI. Chances are this is going to work. I hit Control-Shift-C for anybody who doesn't know that. That's the way to copy something from your terminal. So we can do echo Control-D. We'll append that to okay. SSH-I test admin at yeah, there you go. I use Kali. Just thank you for the follow, agent. Yeah, I use Kali at work. Just kind of stick with what I know. I know a lot of people like to use different things. But yeah. So, but yeah, honestly, when you find a distro that you like, use it. As long as it's okay with the company that you're working for, no reason not to. You know, you could. I know I've worked with people who. Thanks for the bites, Amber. How are you? I work with people who use custom Ubuntu images and just install the tools they want. I don't like doing all that. All the biting. Chat is getting sassy. Thanks for the bite, Nixie. Truth. But yeah, so this is again, this is the danger. So we now have a private key on this. I no longer have to mess with this if I don't want to. There's other fun things we could do. If we wanted to. No, we're not going to play with that right now. So let's kind of see what the network itself is actually wanting us to do. So what is the domain name? Throwback.local. How many ports are open? Okay. We're just going to do a real quick port scan. Yeah, I agree. I normally don't worry about it too much because I don't spend much time in the browser. But yeah, they were wrong. And unfortunately, there's not much I can do about this site. What were we doing? Oh, we're answering questions. This is gonna take forever. This isn't a good example, Octo, of when I would use this. Shakes fist in light mode. Truth. It hurts my eyes. So we've got 4 parts. Oh, I don't know offhand, actually. So, like I said, we will find out together. Yeah, that is yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting from it too. Yeah, I say Chat GPT is probably right on this one. Just because I'm not finding anything that says that isn't right. So it probably is very much adaptive. That being said, sometimes we just want to not let it do its own thing. What version of Apache is running on? Mail is 232. That's what happens when Ryan doesn't pay attention. So yeah, now we would move into enumeration. We kind of skipped a little bit, so we've already figured out that we can get directly into PFSense. We can go to so security. So summers, winters. located. Located in Great Britain. So my, how do I explain that? When I decided I wanted to get into InfoSec, I went to school. That being said, you don't have to go to school. Don't let anybody tell you differently. You do not have to have a degree to get into this field. I went that route just because I wanted to get that degree. I wanted to show my son that it's possible. I have a 19-year-old that still hasn't learned the lesson that sometimes school is good. And then I started applying. A lot of people will look at the job description and they'll say, oh, I'm not qualified for that. Oh, I'm not qualified for that. Well, here's the simple fact. You will not get 100% of jobs you don't apply for. Job descriptions are written by people who don't really know what they need. And a lot of the time, if you get that interview and you sit down and you know what you're talking about, you will get that job. But if you apply and you don't get the job, it's no different than if you hadn't applied. So why not just apply? It's cliche, I get it, but it never hurts to try. And you never know. You may not get that particular job, but they may say, well, you're not quite qualified for this security engineer job or this pen testing job, but we are also looking for a junior pen tester that we haven't put up yet. We are looking for a SOC analyst. Would you be interested in taking that job? And that gets your foot in the door. Hey, Bibbidi. Believe it or not, this is actually water. I am drinking water today.
No more rhymes now, I mean it. What do you want to peanut?
My first InfoSec job was, yeah. Yes, I am hydrating with water. My first InfoSec job was a SOC analyst. I did that for exactly 6 months before I said, nope, I'm not meant to be a blue teamer. It's not for me. I took my OSCP and moved into internal pen testing. I designed that company's entire pen test program. When I got there, they did not have one, and they were paying outside consultants a lot of money. That's why I say, even if your end goal is pen testing or red teaming, don't be afraid to take that first job as a blue teamer. Don't be afraid to be a SOC analyst level 1. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there because, again, number one, you will not get 100% of the jobs you don't apply for. And number two, getting your foot in the door is so much more important than getting that job that you really want at first. And then once you get that initial job, just do everything you can to be the best at it. Learn from the people that are around you. I had a security engineer, I call him, my website has been taken down because I just don't have time to maintain it, but it used to say, find the guy with the long hair in the corner and listen to everything he says, or she says. And that was in reference to a security engineer I was working with. I was already very intertwined with hacking before I started InfoSec. But I learned so much just sitting listening to that person talk. about doing it as a professional instead of doing it as fun. The biggest takeaway I would give you from that is learn from the people who are doing it every day. Learn not to be afraid, because you've got to take that first step. Once you take that first step, the second step's easier. Once you take that second step, the third step is easier. And eventually you'll get to where you want to be. And don't be afraid to fail. That is something that I don't think people in our field get told enough. Don't be afraid to fail. Because there is no failure. As long as you don't give up, you haven't failed. You have learned. You have made an error and you are learning from it. And as long as that remains the case, you will never not get where you're trying to get. When I took the OSCP the first time, I was one of the lucky ones. When I took it the first time, I passed. But I still say to this day, the reason that I passed is I went in knowing that it was okay if I didn't pass. When I applied for my first consulting pen tester, yes, exactly. And that's why it's so important to understand that failure is okay. Just learn from it. Do better. When you make that mistake, do better. But yeah, when I applied for my first pen tester job, I 100% did not expect to get it. I was lucky. I got it. And I don't have all the answers, but I will say the biggest thing I've learned is not being afraid to fail is the quickest way to succeed. That's my little bit of wisdom for you, Octo. If you are just getting into the field, don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. We all started at the same place. When I was a SOC analyst, I knew absolutely nothing about incident response. I knew absolutely nothing about being a SOC analyst, and I made it. Not because I am super great at things, not because I am super smart. I made it because I was willing to fail. It's easy to say that. It's easy to say don't be afraid to fail, because failure does hurt. But when you get to that point that you accept that you may fail this one time, you may fail twice, you may fail 20 times, but as long as you keep going, you're good. You'll do fine. And that's, yeah, like Nixie said, you're not ever going to grow if you aren't learning. And some of the best educational moments I have been when I blatantly and extraordinarily fail at something. The biggest thing is to get back up and do it again, and fail again, and do it again. So don't we all, Nixie? Don't we all? And for sure, Octo, as a more senior person in this field, that's something I really want to do. We are short people, and one of the things that I have been driven insane in this field by is there's a lot of gatekeeping, and there's a lot of not supporting your fellow potential people. You know, if you all you're telling people is, oh no, you should have already been able to do this. No, don't tell people that crap. Everybody learns at their own pace. Everybody learns their own way. Um, you know, I may learn Active Directory hacking 10 times faster than the next guy, but I may come back and absolutely struggle with web application, which is true. Network is my strong point. Web application is my weak point. Doesn't make me any less of a hacker. It just means I know my weak point. So it drives me insane when I hear seniors say, like, no, you should already know that. No, you shouldn't. Don't let people do that to you. You learn at the pace you learn at. And as long as you don't give up, it drives me crazy. It really does. I refuse to be that guy who says, you should be able to. One of the big questions, I have a junior at work. One of the big questions he asked me is, how long should it take me to learn this? I can't tell you that. I can't. It may you may learn that in 5 minutes. You may learn that in 5 years. Well, let me tell you something, Octo. If anybody ever tells you that, that is not the place you want to work. Because that is a toxic environment and that is a toxic mindset. A true hacker, a true pen tester, a true red teamer, and a true leader will never say that to you. And if they... Now, would I say that to somebody jokingly? Yeah, of course. I do it with my coworkers all the time. Like, what do you mean you don't know how to do this? But it's joking. If they're serious, fuck them. Fuck them as hard as you possibly can. Because at the end of the day, there was a time where they didn't fucking know that. And if they think they did, they're complete and utterly wrong, for one. And two, they're fucking morons. You were not born knowing this shit. You were not going to learn it with people having that attitude. Now, are there times where you may get the, okay, what did you do to try to learn that? Yeah. And that is a good leader, because the idea is try. And exactly, Bibbidi. If it's done jokingly, it's fine. But that's the type of gatekeeping bullshit that I am talking about in this field, because there are fucking asshole hackers that will say shit like that. Like, what do you mean you don't know how to do this? And they're dead serious. Fuck them. Fuck them, because at some point they didn't know how to do it either. Don't ever be afraid of that, Octo, because I am telling you now, if somebody ever says that to you, you go ahead and hop in my Discord, let me know they said it, get me in contact with them. I will blow their fucking mind with some shit that I guarantee they don't know how to do. And the same thing would go true for them. They will have something they know how to do that I don't, because we don't know everything. We're not meant to. And we all start somewhere. So, enough of me cussing about these assholes that say shit like that. Don't be afraid of that. Because at the end of the day, if somebody genuinely says that to you, you don't want to work there anyway. That there is nothing more toxic than that attitude. Yes, our brains are not actual databases, and there is limited space. Yes, that's like I said at the beginning. The most important tool you have is your ability to research. Don't try to memorize everything. Fuck that. Learn how to research. Memorize how to research. Learn how to read Stack Overflow articles. Learn how to read Google. Learn how to do good Google searches. And guess what? When you come back to a real hacker and you come back to a senior pen tester who is actually going to do their job, and you say, look, dude, I Googled it. This is what I Googled. This is what I found. This is what I didn't understand. I can guarantee you a true hacker, a true pen tester, when they see that you put in that work, they will sit down and they will teach it to you. And they will work on it until you understand it. The ones who won't, they're not real. And 9 times out of 10, the reason they won't is because they don't actually know it. They think they do, but they don't. What are we missing here? Who is a baby dev? Why are we baby devs? Poor Python. Bibbidi Python's not that bad. It's okay, Nixie. Everybody is allowed to have their opinions. Like I said, would I ever develop a full application in Python? Absolutely not. That is not what it is designed for. It works for my purposes. When I have to write a quick exploit. Oh, absolutely. That is why I know as many languages as I do, because there are languages that are better for that. Python is quick and dirty. It's great for writing a quick exploit. It's great for doing certain things. Outside of that, it's not the language for everything. Just like C# is not the language for everything. Go is not the language for everything. C++ might be the language for everything. Just because it's so portable. Octo, I hope, if nothing else, if you are still here and you learn nothing else from this stream, don't be afraid and don't let haters in this field hate. They exist and they suck. Yes, 100%. If you ever need somebody to back you up in an argument about some shit, I promise you, I am more than willing and more than able to back you up. And the reason that I am so willing and able is because I have realized that I don't know everything. What I do know is how to research. What I do know is how to be kind to people and to never forget that at some point, I didn't know nearly as much as I do now. Yeah. So we had a good emotional heart-to-heart. You laughed through. No, you can't leave me. You can't leave me stranded on that, Nixie. Why were we laughing? I didn't mean to laugh out loud. I really didn't. You're not fucking serious, right? Who the No. No. Hmm. I Why is that a thing? Did you at least try to convince them that that was a bad idea? Please? That was my question. Why is this a thing? What are you talking about? Oh man. Um I haven't I'm old and I haven't seen that as a thing since I first started working with computers. I didn't know people still use that crap. My mom was a COBOL programmer. An entire new fancy. Yeah, I know. And I don't. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna be that guy. I have opinions on that. I have a lot of opinions on that, and none of them are good. Um, that is horrifying. That's literally the shit nightmares are made out of for cybersec people. Um, Makes my job easier though. Go ahead, use it. Make my job easier, I guess. I'm gonna put us in a be right back. Turn up the music a little bit. Uh, yeah, hackers do love it. We absolutely love it. It's so arcane that it's not even funny. But yeah, I'm gonna put us in a be right back. I'll still be in chat, but I'm gonna take just a few minute break. You shouldn't want anything to do with this project, Nixie. Next, they're gonna tell you they want you to pull out the old school punch cards and never mind. Yeah, we're gonna go to a be right back.